It's true. We are live here with Coffee with Humans with my new friend Lane. Lane, welcome to Coffee with Humans.
Hey, good to have coffee with you. Nice to meet you guys.
Okay, so I have a coffee mug here. It's fancy Coffee with Humans coffee mug. It does not have coffee in it. I just want to be straight up. It's got a strawberry watermelon fake flavor thing with water.
Yeah, I don't have any coffee. I drank mine, but I'll just hold on to it because it's kind of a
Oh
compliment.
my gosh. You know what we need? We need a coffee sponsor who I could then say, today's coffee is provided by coffee sponsor, right?
Yeah, until then, we'll just keep paying Starbucks.
Oh my gosh. Is that where you go to get your coffee?
I
Starbucks?
actually started to get the Amazon brand. I switched from the
Really?
Kirkland brand to the Amazon Somolino
Amazon
or
Fresh
whatever
or
they
whatever it
call
is?
it.
Oh,
I read online that it's actually pretty good, and I can't tell the difference, but it's cheap too, so we'll go with it.
oh, so you gotta do a blind taste testing for yourself. Okay, so I've done the Amazon brand. I just had Cafe Bustelo. So I do a mocha pot, Italian mocha pot for my coffee in the morning, and so I get a cup of espresso, which is about 3 shots or so of espresso in my little mocha pot. But I've done the Cafe Bustelo. I just had Cafe Gavina, which is delicious, amazing, great coffee, affordable. I've also done the Amazon brand, both in light roast, dark roast, medium roast, and decaf. So I can speak with a bit of authority on the coffee brands. You can't go
I
wrong with the Amazon brand except the light roast. Don't bother. If you really like coffee, get the medium or the dark roast.
Yeah, I was looking up. I had to see what a mocha pot is. I know I've seen this before.
Yeah.
So what's the deal? Like, it makes it like you steam off the extra water or something like that, or
I'm okay. The water goes in the bottom, and then you sit it on the stove top. It's an aluminum thing. Water goes in the bottom, and then it has a metal filter basket with a tiny hole in it, and the water pressure as it boils goes up as steam basically, or hot water through the coffee grounds, and then out the little top and sits in the top part of the mocha pot.
wow,
Yeah.
good stuff.
It is. It's totally good stuff, and makes a nice, rich, deep, dark cup of coffee. If you like espresso, if you don't like espresso, if you like more of a medium, medium to light roast sort of cup, it's probably not the thing for you.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll have to buy one of those things because I need more stuff to buy.
You totally should. So what? I'm curious now that we've got the coffee thing out of the way. What what is the what inspired you to click the button to have coffee with me?
Well, I just try and spread the good word of real financial freedom tactics that I've kind of learned along the way that kind of screwed my parents over and a lot of hardworking professionals out there buying a home to live in, investing in 401k, garbage investments, all that type of stuff, and helping people buy rental properties. Something I did, started back in 2009, and it's kind of allowed me to quit my job, used to be an engineer.
Yeah. And where are you located?
I'm in out here in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, gotcha. That's awesome. And so I'm in Illinois. I've been to Honolulu twice. Uh, Beautiful area, but it's been well over 20 years since I've been there. I'm sure a lot has changed.
Not much, not much. And
No?
things don't really change too much out here. It's kind of it's on island time, which is why it's kind of nice. But I do enjoy getting out there to the mainland. I travel quite frequently, so check out my properties up there because we invest where the numbers make sense, which is typically I don't know about Illinois. Illinois is kind of going downhill quick, but Texas, Alabama, Arizona, you know, not places like California, New York, or Seattle, those
Yeah.
type of places. Yeah.
Well, those those places tend to have pretty high property values already. So my guess is you're looking for places that when you say the numbers make sense, is that you're going to be able to buy it probably at a good price, and rents are pretty good or on the uptick. Is that kind of
Yeah, I mean, it's
strategy?
not so much price, right? Like it's more like the price that we get or the amount of rents we get for our dollar, right? So it kind of distills down to this thing called like rent to value ratio. So we look for properties that are 1% rent to value ratio or higher. So you take the monthly rent divided by the purchase price, and it needs to be 1% or higher. So a lot of places will target or like $100,000 for a house that are rent for more than $1,000 a month. Um, Folks in like California, Washington, Hawaii, New York, like you're like half a percent, if that. Like it just doesn't work. Like to be able to
Yeah.
the cash flow. We're not really into buying for appreciation. The whole buy low so high is great when it happens, but we don't take chances. We're more cash flow investors, buy and hold guys.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the calculations, and this is secondhand, so the details of it could be fuzzy. But one calculation here in the area that I'm in, which is northern Illinois, outside Chicago by about 60 miles or so, uh, was that over the past, let's say, 20 years, um, the basically the home values have risen by a total of something like 10%, and and so it would have made renting a better deal in our area because there has been no appreciation or virtually no appreciation on property values in our area, just due to the economics of both our region, kind of in that microeconomics, and then the ups and downs of the economy in general.
Yeah. I mean, generally, like it doesn't make any sense to buy your own house to live in. You should take that money and go buy a handful of rental properties, which are going to also grow for you. Put cash flow in your pocket, and then the difference maker is the tenants are paying down your mortgage for you, so you're getting that principal payment off the
Mhm.
hard sweat and tears of your tenants. Um, and but that said, I think still most people should buy their house to live in because it's essentially a forced piggy bank, right? I mean, I work with a lot of folks who are pretty good with their money, working professionals. Most people are not that, right? Most people are in credit card debt. They need envelopes to budget, or and they need
Right.
that forced savings account, which is what a house is. But for those people who are pretty good financially, these are the people who like kind of max out their 401ks, that type of mindset people. It's better to invest and not live in the property that you own. At least
Yeah.
that's what
How
I
did you,
do.
how did you get into this? Because you said you were an engineer at one point in time, and now you've got this passive investing thing since 2009, which was a struggling time to do that, or an opportunity depending on the position you were in life. What was the path like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up pretty frugally. My parents taught me to go to school, get a good job, work at that job for 40, 50 years, and maybe retire at that point. Then also buy a house to live in, right? That's what everybody
Mhm.
says to do.
Yeah.
So I did that. I made a pretty good salary right out of college, able to save up 80 grand in a couple of years. So I bought a house to live in, but I was like never home. I was working as a construction supervisor, traveling on the road all the time. It was kind of silly for me to have this house that I was only home on Saturday to enjoy. So then I just started to rent it out, and I was like, "Whoa!" I'm like, like the mortgage was $1,600 a month. Like the rents were $2,200 a month. I knew nothing about that rent to value ratio thing. All I knew, I was making like, 500-600 bucks every month, passive cash flow, and I was like, shoot, if I just keep doing this a few more times, I'll be able to quit my job, fire my boss.
Okay. And so then what? I mean, what was this? Was it like an overnight epiphany type of thing, or did you ease into this? Because I know you said something like you have 4,500 properties that you manage.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a couple of weeks went by, and I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of fun. But then I started to like really see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? I mean, it's just a math exercise. I just saved up to buy another property a couple of years later, and then in 2015, I would say 6, 7 years later, I had 11 rentals. Started to buy in more markets where the rental value ratio started to work. So I had 5 in Atlanta, 4 in Birmingham, 1 in Indianapolis, and another in Pennsylvania. But yeah, I had 11 rentals at a few $100s a piece. That was bringing in maybe $3,000 of passive cash flow a month, which was way, doesn't, that's just the tip of the iceberg, the cash flow. I had 11 sets of tenants paying down my mortgage for me, contributing to my principal
Yeah.
equity, the tax benefits, and then the properties were slowly appreciating too. So, I mean, my net worth was kind of growing exponentially. It was slow though. I mean, in the beginning, right? That's the hardest thing, is to get that first 100, $250,000 net worth. But after a while, it starts to pick up. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, around 2015, 16, I started to, join different masterminds and get around other higher net worth accredited investors that were a little further along the path as me.
Mhm.
And they were all investing in these private placements and syndications. So they were going in as a passive LP partner, no debt in their name, little to no liability, and they didn't have to do anything. They just invested with the right operators and sponsors, and they were able to go into these large apartment deals, into better business plans, better deals, essentially.
Yeah. How does it work out? Curious to know, how does it work out when you are in Hawaii and you have 5 units in Alabama? You're managing these things from a distance. You own them, and I mean the logistics of getting to Alabama. It's not impossible for sure, but it's not like you're going to go there tonight because something's broken. How do
Yeah, I mean,
you manage all that?
it comes down to like getting a good team around you, working off referrals, and this is why your network is so important, right? This is where you're going to find legitimate people to work with, and essentially you have to trust them, right? I mean, a lot of those first properties I bought were sight unseen. I mean, it's kind of a waste of my time to go and visit the property, and I think this is where what separates a lot of sophisticated investors from kind of newbies who have that thing where they need to feel it, touch it, they need to feel comfortable with it. I mean, if you're working with the right people, which it's a set of people, it's your real estate broker who's not just looking to sell you a property, it's your property manager who's going to end up with the headache at the end of the day. So they're trying to advise you the right way, and you need to work with them hand in hand.
Mhm.
The third party property inspector, making sure that you're not buying a lemon, right? And then, title and insurance. The bank is usually doing their due diligence on the back end, making sure that you're buying like a legitimate property with clean title. But yeah, with those 4 parties, I mean, you should be able to. You don't really need to visit the property, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
most times, especially for like folks that live in California or these more expensive markets where you get paid a lot, investing in your backyard isn't going to make sense from a numbers
Mhm.
perspective.
Yeah. Well, I see what you're saying there. If you have a good team on board and who are to some degree like a bank is protecting their own investment, um, the what could you possibly add to that is going to be, a better kind of a better indicator of success, other than perhaps your own emotion on it. Like, is it a nice looking place? Would I want to live there? Type of stuff, which I've seen and heard from a lot of folks who start embarking on the rental game. They like the property, and they start to not look at it necessarily from a numbers perspective, but like I have got an intuition about this, which to me speaks to a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions, which can cloud judgment when like I think what you're talking about is investing is a lot of it is just a numbers game.
Yeah, take the emotion out of it. I mean, I think people can, you do that 1% rent to value ratio, quick and dirty calculation, right, to see if you're going to move on. But the next step is to kind of dig into the numbers. If people want to, really play around with the numbers, they can grab my free analyzer on my website. I think the URL is simplepassivecashflow.com/analyzer. But yeah, you can download that. It's a Google Sheet or Excel, and you can go through each of the line items and see if you're going to cash flow. You need to account for the repairs, maintenance, property management. They usually take 10%, right? But they're well worth it. They're the ones doing your dirty work for you, dealing with the tenants, termites, and toilets. You need to account for capex too, right? There's all these things you need to account for, and it's all kind of in there, that analyzer as line items. So that's I would say that's the first place to start, right? You're buying commodities at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You're not buying the high end luxury properties. You're not buying the low end war zone properties. You're buying things in the middle that this country needs more of, quite frankly, right? This is like lower middle class.
So you've got now this growth to, you say, 4,500 properties, and if I'm guessing, tell me about your business model here. Is because you've got this website, passivecashflow.com. Why have a website if you've got 4,500 properties?
Yeah, so today, or like I said, after 2015, I started to realize people pick up these properties via a method called syndication, or kind of think of it like crowdfunding, right? So investors will come in and invest in these deals. So today I lead opportunities. I go out and find the property, and I tell my investors about it, and they kind of jump in the deal with me after building a relationship with myself. Um,
Mhm.
and today we're kind of picking properties at least 100 units, because at that point you're able to get a full-time property manager to sit in the leasing office for you, and then more importantly, we have like guys running around in the golf cart knocking out little work orders from here to here.
Yeah.
Instead of like when you're the one landlord, right, with the one rental property, you're using third party like repair people all the time, right? Toilet fix, you don't have a guy to fix that under salary. You got to pay the plumber $600 every time, and you can kind of
Yeah.
nickel and dime to death, and you don't get economies of scale. So we kind of stick to 100 units at the very least, to a few hundred units apartment complexes, just for a variety of reasons, economies of scale, and we can control the community too when it's larger, right? When you're a single family homeowner, you're at the whim of your neighborhood, right? What's going on there?
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. The amount of work that that one or two tenants can create. If you can get up to 100 folks, you start to spread the risk of something having to nickel and dime you to death out. And then, like you say, you can hire one person to be there who can just show up that day and who's already there to take the call instead of
Right.
calling up necessarily to you. Because it starts, I think, to turn that idea of passive income into an annoyance, where now you're trying to enjoy dinner, you get a call from somebody, and then you got to go, okay, and I got to find a plumber because my tenant who doesn't know how to use a garbage disposal,
Yeah, that's the
suddenly
classic one, right? But I
causes
mean,
a problem.
even when you're owning like single family homes on your own, I mean, get a property manager, right? That's what they're here for. I mean, the
Mhm.
people who don't do it, it's because of one or two reasons. Number one, their numbers don't work, right? They didn't use my analyzer. They didn't go through the numbers. They don't have the money in there to pay a professional to do this. And secondly, it's just ego. Some people want to do everything themselves, right? They feel like only
Right.
they can prepare the toilet better than anybody else, right? Those, quite frankly, those people will never scale, right? They're always going to
Right.
be working. Um, I mean, with our apartment syndications, we work with commercial property management, so they're a lot more sophisticated than your just run of the mill residential
Mhm.
property managers, which is why I like the economies of scale with the larger apartments. And then with single family homes, it's just there's more stuff that the person can screw up. They think they own the place, and they can screw up. There's just more sides of it, right? Where the apartment philosophy or the apartment tenant, they just have a box, right? The inside of that box, and that's all they can really screw up. And it's really hard. It's kind of hard for them to do that, and they have that renter's mentality, right? They get it that they're renting this box that they live in, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, these homeowners or these people who live in homes, they feel like that's theirs,
Well,
right?
a lot of
They have
folks
some entitled
are
interest.
surprised. A lot of folks are surprisingly unsophisticated as well. I remember helping a friend one point in time. They had a tenant, and the dryer stopped working, and I was, and it's like everybody's flabbergasted, like, how's the dryer stop? And it was like, oh, there's like a lint trap. You got to clean it. That's it. You got to clean it. And they're like, what? What? It collects lint and you have to clean it? Like, how long have you been on the planet? What have you been doing?
Yeah, just grown men and women well, grown men and women with kids in their bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like the gig that you got going for yourself is that you used your smarts to figure out a system to then help other people invest their money in properties that you can help identify.
Right. I mean, on my website, we have a lot of free information for people to get, like, their own rental properties. Like my first, like, 12 podcasts were all about, like, there's these things called turnkey rentals you can buy. They're a little bit more expensive than doing it on your own, but it's not that much expensive, right? Especially for somebody new to not make mistakes. But like these guys will fix up a property, change out all the new components, the plumbing, electrical, paint it new roof, new appliances, and they'll even put a tenant in there for you. It's like truly like rental property with training wheels.
Hmm.
And it's a great way to get started. I mean, I got a lot of free resources to kind of, if you wanted to learn more about that. But I started to realize at some point that as investors become more accredited, or they become higher net worth, and they don't have time to do any of that type of stuff, right? Even though it is training, rental properties with training wheels, they don't have time. So that's where, like, the syndications and private placements come in, that they can kind of come in, look at a pitch deck, choose to invest, and that's it. That's all they do, right? No debt in their
Do
name. They have
do you
no
find that
management responsibility.
the folks who are investing in these, or is the process that if a private investor wants to go invest in one of these, are they investing with a group of other folks in an individual property and becoming a a minority owner of that, or are they buying the whole thing on their
I
own?
mean, a lot of these capital raises are like $5 to $10 million. There's usually about 50 to 150 investors in those
Okay.
types of deals, and they come in as passive LP limited partners.
Okay. Gotcha. And then who manages that then for them if they're a passive?
I'm the general partner. I manage the investment. I find the investment. We get the lending. I get the lending in my name.
Hmm.
And then we kind of work the deal with our partners, on behalf of everybody. The analogy is kind of like an airplane, right? You have the cockpit, which myself and my partner sit in. We're the ones flying the plane, and then
Hmm.
all the passengers come back in coach, pay their ticket, and then go to
Yeah.
sleep and cash your checks.
And get right and get their complimentary champagne in the morning when they wake up.
Hopefully, yeah. But then that's what investors do, right? They go into, like, dozens of these type of opportunities, and wealthy people don't invest in retail investments such as mutual funds and all that type of Wall Street
Mhm.
garbage, right? That's for the retail investor. And this is kind of what set me on this path. Like, when I was buying my first rental property, I wasn't that good at it wasn't that great of a rental. The numbers sucked on it, but I was still making like 20 to 30% on my money. People don't believe me. They can go to my website. I think the video where I go through, like, the whiteboard and all the math and calculations at simplepassivecashflow.com/returns. But then, very early on, I was like, how am I making like 20, 30% of my money with mortgage pay down, tax benefits, cash flow, and property appreciation? Those four ways you're making money. And I'm only making 8 to 10% on this, like, 401k stuff, right? WTF, right? Like, who took all my money? And I started to realize, like, this whole system is engineered to have people just funnel like cattle into this, like, 401k, TSP, 403b, these cafeteria of just, like, garbage, that there's all these middlemen taking people's hard-earned money. And this is why it takes 40, 50 years to 60s and 70s to retire. I mean, the most of the people I work with, we get them on the path, they get them out of that cafeteria garbage, and they can be financially free in less than 10 years. And that kind of opens up the question. It's like, well, not everybody should do this, because if people did this, who would build our bridges, right? Who would get our coffee? Who Society would absolutely crumble, right? If people just did what I said, bought a handful of rentals, and just set themselves on the path to financial freedom.
Yeah, right. Well, absolutely. Somebody needs to somebody needs to work. Not everybody can.
Right, right. Like if you're not comfortable buying a property remotely, cool, just keep working, right? Because we need you to
Right.
do that. Yeah.
Okay, so this idea of sophisticated investments, how much of this do you think is because of the availability of communication about opportunities that is unprecedented now in the world, because of the internet? I mean, this is a past, let's say, 20, 30-year problem or opportunity, rather, that you can find out. Like you put up a website and you're sitting in Honolulu. Um, what 30 years ago, nobody would even know you existed or that you were doing this thing. They would have just been living their lives in their little microcosm and going to work and talking to, the local investment guy who set up shop down the street.
Yeah, yeah, it is truly amazing, right? I mean, how I got started doing this is talking to other investors, and without the internet, I would have never found them, right? I mean, sometimes I talk to some older investors, and they did this back in the day, but they were like, just I don't know how they got connected with the right people, especially if they're investing remotely, thousands of miles away. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not like literally like opening up the yellow pages. There's no yellow pages for this stuff, right? It's all private networks. I mean, these are all like country club deals, right? Unless you went to the local country club, you weren't getting access to it. But now friends talk to friends, they refer people over to me, and they become part of our network. Um, it's truly amazing, right? What the internet has done, and then internet also allows you to verify track record too, right? Because anybody can create a pitch deck or a webinar, and manufacture social proof likes on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I always tell people like your network is your net worth, right? This is how I figure out who I want to work with, by building my network big enough where I have true organic relationships with people who have worked with somebody I potentially want to work with in the future.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
internet allows that to happen.
Yeah, I think one of the real powerful lessons in this is what you talk about. Your network is your net worth, because the how deals used to get done. I think to a great degree, how deals still get done is it's all the quintessential. It's all in who you know, because prior to being able to just open up a website and learn about opportunities, you would have to know somebody. I mean, it's analogous to when I was growing up. I was into coding at a very young age. In sixth grade, I was writing software, and it was only because my dad bought us a computer. And I thought, wow, how can I learn to write these games that I have been enjoying? And that set me off on a whole new path. But my mom would take me to the library after school almost every day, it feels like. And God bless the woman. She would sit there and do whatever, I have no idea, while I thumbed through these massive books designed for adults. And then at some point in time, and I only have limited recollection of this, but at some point in time, my dad took me to an Apple user group, which were a bunch of old guys standing around talking about how to use computers better. And I was a little nothing. I was a little kid. He took me to these folks, and then that launched me into the world of BBSs, bulletin board systems, which were prior to the internet as we know it. And all of a sudden, I'm connected up with the people who are running ISPs, like the people who provide you your internet at the time, as just a young guy. And it was this connection that my dad had made through somebody that he knew, because he knew the guy who owned the computer store, and then that person knew somebody else. It was as if somebody had just bought me a computer and then said, here, have fun with it, I'd still be playing video games rather than, writing software or connecting with people around the world and having an innate understanding of all these things, because I pushed forward and I had somebody there who helped me leverage my own interests. It seems that that's kind of what you're doing in this space. If somebody has an interest and wants to leverage that, you're the leverage to global opportunities.
Right, right. And yeah, it is very serendipitous, right? I mean, like up until 2015, when I had 11 rental properties, I thought I was hot stuff, right? I mean, I thought buying these turnkey rentals was going to be like the path to financial freedom, which it could be, right?
Sure.
Um, but then I started to get around these higher net worth folks and started to learn these strategies that these people do. And I started to realize they're very counterintuitive to what your parents taught you, especially what's being taught by you talk to your cubicle mates Cliff and Larry. This is totally different from what they're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that, and but the frustrating thing is like the things that the wealthy do that I teach. It's very simple, simple passive cash flow for a reason, right? Like, but it's this. The system is engineered to kind of have people do the complete opposite, and it kind of hurts people.
Hmm. So what is to you talked about the system being engineered for this. What do you think is the big opportunity in the market for the average Joe? Is it this simple pass flow cash flow thing, or is it something different? I mean, not everybody is ready to just I think get into real estate, and even though they have some sort of concept of hey, I could get rentals. What do you think? Having walked this journey, what do you think is the big opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, the prescription is based on where you are in terms of net worth, right? Like, so we don't work with folks who are broke. Like, if you are in credit card debt, don't have 10 grand to your name, we can't help you, right? Like, we work with, people who are good with their money. This is real estate investing, bro. If you don't have money, you can't invest, right? You got a money problem. And I'm not somebody who kind of teaches that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, right. That's like what Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey are for, right? To get the financially immature, get them up the baseline, right?
Yeah.
But I can take people from baseline on. So if you're kind of new, your net worth is under $500,000 net worth, I suggest to go buy a simple rental property that cash flows. You're going to need $20,000 to $30,000 for a 20% down payment, and you just buy and hold. And this is what I did, right? No tricks, no games, just simple buy and hold, save money, buy, hold again. If your net worth is higher than that, and certainly if you're an accredited investor, I think that's where the syndications and private placements come in, right? That's the
Mhm.
prescription for that level. But I mean, it's very simple, right? I mean, once you get into the private placements and syndications, they do this thing called a cost segregation, which allows you to extract bonus depreciation and paper losses much more
Mhm.
than just any typical rental property. And this cool little trick allows, a lot of my investors and myself pick and choose how much taxes we like to pay. I don't pay taxes because I don't make money based on my paper losses, right? I think people understand this. They've heard of this. Maybe they don't understand how it actually is happening. But yeah, the wealthy don't pay taxes, right? And maybe you think that is a wrong thing, which I totally disagree. The wealthy people are investing their money into society, right? But
Yeah.
we'll come off of that. But at the end of the day, I don't pay no taxes.
Well, there's funny. It's so funny you bring that up. I know this has nothing to do with real estate, but uh, I read an article just today, just the headline of it, uh, that said something like Zoom made $664 million in what the article said was COVID earnings, but they didn't pay. They paid zero taxes because they gave a bunch of stock options to executives, and it's just interesting to me
Yeah,
that this idea of not paying taxes is sort of uh, because you earned a lot of money because there's one thing to not pay taxes because you're nefarious, but there's another thing to not pay
right.
taxes because you just are using the system and you're spending money. It's not like you're not spending money. You are actively contributing to the world at large, and you're actively contributing to the economy in ways that other people can't because they simply don't have the means. So it's not like you just took the cash and like threw it over here into a big, into your
Right.
big.
What I tell people is like the tax code is written to incentivize us to put money into certain things that the government needs more of, such as
Right.
workforce housing, which is what we invest in, right? The government doesn't create, housing for low income folks like how we do. So they're giving us a lot of these great tax benefits to do this stuff, and we'll take it, and I think that's our contribution to society. And hey, we're just going with what they tell us to do. If you don't do that, yeah, bro, you got to pay taxes, right? Like And the sad thing is, I think people are like, they're just investing in the wrong stuff and putting their money in the wrong place, untax advantage, and they're kind of missing out on all this type of stuff. If they knew how to do it, they would do it. But it's just very counterintuitive to what everybody teaches you. I mean, most CPAs and accountants don't get this stuff. That's why they still have day jobs. I'd say 99% of them don't understand this type of stuff.
Yeah.
They were just telling you to put money in your 401k or Roth IRA as their best means. I mean, that's lame. Like, there's so many ways to save on taxes.
Yeah. But it is, I mean, it's a good start for folks who need to get money or need to start saving money.
I would disagree. I just think I don't advocate for any retirement funds, and this is what, like, the wealthy don't really do this for four big reasons.
So when a person starts off, so let's say you're a young professional, we have sort of this generational turnover. We're starting to get some young professionals getting cash because they've got some, decent jobs. What do they do with those first, $1,000?
Well, first I asked the question, like, are we working with somebody who just blows their money and doesn't know how to save it, right? Are they good steward of financial wealth? If
Okay.
not, then they should go follow Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they are, I would say, don't buy a house to live in. Your money is going to be better off investing in a rental property or some asset that puts more money in your pocket. Um, and don't pay down student debt, right? For example, right? Because your money is going to be better elsewhere. It's essentially an interest rate arbitrage game.
Right.
And then as far as like retirement funds, I mean, I would rather pay my taxes on it today and then put it in a tax sheltered account, because my taxes is likely going to go up in the future, right? My tax bracket I'm going to make more money in the future. At least that's what I think is going to happen. So I want to pay my taxes today. Secondly, I mean, look where this country is going. How are we going to pay for all this entitlement money and stimulus money, but with higher tax brackets in the future? Therefore, pay your taxes today. Thirdly, I'm not waiting till I'm 65 to 70 to retire. I mean, most people can get financially free in 10 years and would like that money quicker. And then fourthly, like, when you invest via retirement sheltered accounts, yeah, it's tax sheltered is what everybody points to. But when it's within one of these accounts, you don't get all the tax benefits to be able to manipulate your taxes today. And I think that's what most people don't realize. So four big reasons why the wealthy don't utilize these tax sheltered accounts.
And I would add to that, I think those are all great points. I would add to that one of the things that you mentioned earlier, which is your network. Who are you hanging around with? Because if you keep hanging around, so this idea of you become who you hang around with. Like, let's say that
The five people,
like
right?
the five people you hang around with, right? And if we don't, so I worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, and one of the things I tell them is like, how many entrepreneurs are you hanging around? Are you the only entrepreneur in your group of friends? That's a problem. It's hard to be an entrepreneur alone. So go hang around other entrepreneurs. If you want to be an investor, if you want to be somebody who's got passive income, start hanging around people who have passive income, because you will subconsciously begin to change your thinking patterns. But not only that, you'll pick up tips and techniques and strategies that nobody else is telling you, because you're simply not around those people. You have to change the people you hang around with to build the life that you want to build. I'm pretty convinced of that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, golden rule is never take financial advice from somebody who's not financially free. And it's likely not your parents. It's not Cliff and Larry in the cubicle next door. It's not your financial advisor, right? Because they just get money off of the commissions of the crap investments you go into.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but that's the hard thing, right? Like, when I first started, I had no access to financially free people, right? But once you find that group, which is kind of what we offer, right? I mean, we're having these great conversations. It's like, is this ordinary income, passive income? Can I use these passive activity losses where I have to keep them suspended? You can have these educated conversations. So then you can take that to your CPA or accountant. First, realize if you have a good one, but then make these, empower yourself to make these right decisions, investment decisions to, do things the right way for taxes.
Yeah. No, all really good points. Well, this is a fascinating conversation. I think that the back to our previous or part of our previous conversation, which was that the access to this type of information is unprecedented right now. And so when people want to start embarking on these paths, particularly, let's say folks, I'll brand it. I'm in the, what am I? I'm Gen X. I'm Gen X. So I was born in 77, something like that. And we are bound to follow the patterns of usually our parents or folks that we respected, just intuitively. That's our nature. When we find ourselves in a new position, we just go, well, that's what mom or dad did, or that's what uncle so and so did, instead of doing research and breaking out of the norm and the pattern, saying, but what if, or how does that individual over there do? And it seems like you're offering a great service to folks to learn patterns of thinking and patterns of investing, tools and tactics that are just they're uncommon. They're out of the ordinary for the average person, even though the average person can have access to that. They just didn't know it. I love what you're doing.
I mean, just I tell people like, yeah, like just run the numbers yourself. The numbers don't lie. People do, right? I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. You know,
Yeah.
put it on a spreadsheet, and if you do it this way, I mean, what could be more prudent than going into properties that produce a positive cash flow stream every month, right? And I think this is one of the biggest fallacies with traditional wealth building is this whole accumulation theory, right? You save up $2 to $4 million of putting your money blindly in this account that all these get commissioned out to all these Wall Street companies. Build up $2 to $4 million, and then what, right? Then you get to retire, and you get to eat off that big pile, right? But what you really want is that stream of cash flow so you can put food on the table with that, right? So what I say is like, why not begin with the end in mind, right? Get cash flow stream today, right? And that's what we're doing. We're buying these little rental properties or syndication deals, and we're creating multiple streams of income or mini pensions today. And the cool thing is like, if we build these mini cash flow streams today, like how I had a few properties when I first started, because I have a day job today, I don't need to eat that yet. But I can take those streams to buy another pile of mini income streams. And this thing just grows exponentially. Like I said, if you do it the right way, you can get out of the rat race in less than a decade, by
Yeah.
investing pretty prudently.
Yeah, totally. And what a great idea. Builds off conversations I've had recently on Coffee with Humans with folks. There were two of them back to back. One person lives in Hawaii, in fact, and they're saying, live for joy in the moment. Make a good decision for now, because you're not guaranteed tomorrow, much less 10, 20, 30 years from now. And so for folks who are sort of following that pattern that I'm going to build up all this stuff, and then 30 years from now, I'm magically going to be able to stop working and I'm going to live then? Why not live now? And why not develop some streams of income today? And it's not that we don't think about tomorrow, but we also want to be able to live our lives today so that we don't have to put our life on the back burner and then, somehow build this hypothetical life that we may never ever see.
Yeah. Of course, people kind of like, I don't know, I get like a little twinge up my spine. I'm like, oh, that's that stupid YOLO thing, right? Like, it seems so irresponsible, and I get it. But like, I mean, what can be more prudent than building cash flow streams today? We're not
Right.
saying to go eat it yet today, right?
Right.
You can still take the cash flow stream and put it to your bank account to buy the next investment property or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're exactly right. You could go at any moment, right? I mean, that's why I like, when I have a rental property these days, I try and make sure I spend it a little bit of it, because I mean, what's got me here is kind of what holds me back is still pretty frugal, right? I mean, I've kind of have a lot of, I mean, on my website, I have a lot of these cheapo ideas that I used to do, right? Like wash my car in the rain, take showers at work, these silly, like, I never used to get like soft drinks at restaurants, it's a waste of money, that's the biggest markup on that type of stuff,
Yeah.
right? But
But
what's
all those are good.
coolest
Those
is
are good
like when
decisions
you,
for today, which are good decisions for the next 10 years too. That's the thing.
right, right. I mean, but there's nothing cooler than when you go buy a rental property and it produces like 500-600 bucks for you a month, and
Yeah.
use that to go pay for your Mercedes lease, right? That's the
Sure.
coolest thing, right? Not like how most people buy another liability, but like you buy an asset that pays for some extravagant purchase like that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, any final thoughts that you want to leave our viewers and listeners with as we close this down?
No, it's simple, guys. I mean, just get started. Go to simplepassivecashflow.com. If you're new to investing and you want to get started, I would say go to simplepassivecashflow.com/turnkey, and also check out the first dozen podcasts. Um,
Okay.
it's kind of a follow my adventure type of podcast. But lately, as an credit investor today, I kind of talk more about syndications, private placements, infinite banking, tax, and legal stuff today.
Sure.
But yeah, thanks for having me, Jason.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining me. Enjoy the weather down there. We're just turning from 20-degree weather to 60-degree weather, and then through the end of March, it'll sort of think about whether it wants to still be winter or whether it's going to move into spring. So,
Yeah, gotta see what that damn groundhog does, right?
yes, yeah, we will hinge all of our bets on an
Yeah,
animal.
we are watching that guy.
Well, cool. Well, Lane, stick around. I'll be back with you in just a minute. But for all our viewers and listeners, this is Coffee with Humans. It is a show where strangers become friends. I met Lane about an hour ago, and we have just begun to meet each other, or just begin to meet each other here on our podcast. So, thanks for joining us. Catch us next time. Thanks, Lane.
One of the things I love about Coffee with Humans are the raw conversations I get to have, meeting new people just like you. If you or someone you know should be on Coffee with Humans, go to coffeewithhumans.com. Remember, the only rule is no sales calls.
This has been Coffee with Humans. Subscribe to get updates or click to have coffee with me. coffeewithhumans.com.